Hello. I just hopped on and I realized I had my headphones plugged in, but not in my ears, so you wouldn't have been able to hear me. Hi, thanks for being here. So today I'm talking about the choice to work less than 40 hours a week if you run your own business. If you don't run your own business, that may not be a choice that you have. So I'm going to talk about this topic because in our world, in our kind of, Western modern world, we have an idea that the work week is 40 hours. And hey, Takesha, thanks for being here. And the thing is that the 40-hour work week is not based on data, and it's not based on how our bodies work, and it's not based on nature. It's actually, interestingly enough, based on the labor laws that came about during the Industrial Revolution, because people, children were working like 12, 15-hour days, and it was insane. So actually, the 40-hour work week was a reduction of what the work week was before that time during the Industrial Revolution and like the labor laws that started to happen around the turn of the century. I'm not a historian, but so what's interesting though is that the corporate structure abides by the 40-hour work week, although honestly the average work week is 47 hours a week. So I have all the data on this in my book, Do Less. I think it's chapter 1, the data on doing less. And the average work week is 47 hours a week. So it's actually significantly high, quite a bit higher than 40 hours a week. But we have this assumption that 40 hours is the standard. And what I want to say is somebody just made that up. And then everyone just decided to go along with it. So I'm here today to talk about why the 40-hour work week, it doesn't mean it's wrong, by the way. The 40-hour work week is fine if that's a conscious choice that you're making. But as an entrepreneur who has been in business for, I really actually started a business when I was 14, but, we'll just call it, I've been running a business full-time since I was 22. So it's been a while. It's been like 14 years full-time, meaning no other sources of income. I think it's really important that we consciously decide on our workflow and on our ideal work week and our ideal life week. So what we actually find in the data is that most of us are only productive doing things that move the needle towards our goals for a few hours a day, like 3 to 4 hours a day. Even top performers can only really focus on stuff that moves the needle about 4 hours a day, 3 to 4. And one of the things that we work on in Origin, my membership, which we're opening the doors for next week, is identifying that 20% stuff that moves the needle so that we can focus in on the 20% that gives us 80% of the results. Now, when you've focused in on, this is called Pareto's principle, aka the 80-20 rule. This is nothing new. However, when I learned about the 80-20 rule from a variety of different sources, I could never find a practical application of it. Like, I liked the idea of it. Anybody here heard of the 80-20 rule? You can just let me know in the comments if you've heard of the 80-20 rule and if you've applied it. Because what I found is it was a nice idea, but I couldn't figure out how to actually figure out what my 20% was. And so I came up with a way, and it's one of the very first things that we teach in Origin in our what's called the self-source scheduling roadmap. And it just has to do with identifying what your tasks are and what gives you the biggest bang for your buck. Now, when it comes to the 40-hour work week, it's important to know that most of us are not actually moving the needle and moving things forward for 40 hours a week, or for those 47 hours a week. That's the average American work week. So what are we doing at our desks? That is what I want to know. Why are we spending so much time with our butts in our seats if the data shows that we're not actually that productive? What is shown is that the optimal is somewhere between between a 24 and 32 hour work week. That in a 24 to 32 hour work week, we can get our best work done and also have lives that we love. And there are companies, and again, I read out all this data. I've listed all this data in my book, Do Less. There are companies who have moved to a 4-hour work week because they're actually going by at what's evidence-based as opposed to what we've all just done for for a couple of centuries now. Well, I don't know, maybe a century, right? We've been doing the 40-hour work week for about a century, and I think it's time in the year 2021 to shake things up, especially after, during this time, this odd time in history. And so when we decide to shake things up and reduce our work week, there's a couple of things that are important to know. Number one, I just want to tell you that I work less than 40 hours a week. I pretty much always have since having children. So I have a 5.5-year-old and I have a 3-year-old and I have a 7-figure business. We have published books. We have an online membership. We have digital courses. I do speaking and I have a mastermind and I have a planner system. The Do Less planner here. This is like my schedule Bible. So new planners will be out in the fall if you're wanting a Do Less planner. The physical ones, we have the digital ones now. But that's kind of what my company is. And I have worked less than 40 hours a week, except for the occasional launch week or the occasional week where I'm doing a live event, things like that. Then it'll expand. But I pretty much work less than 40 hours a week. And I always have since, for the last almost 6 years. So the reason I say that is not to say that like these results are typical, not to say that you have to do it like me, because that's not what I'm saying at all. But what's really important to know is that if we want to change the narrative about work and about productivity and about the hustle, we need to surround ourselves with examples of people who are doing it differently. Because I find that when I want to change a belief, and that belief might be, a very common belief is, if I want to make more money, then I have to work more hours. Anybody have that association? If I want to make more money, then I have to work more hours. So that may be true if you trade hours for dollars. But when you run your own business, you have more flexibility there. And so I would invite you to begin to surround yourself online and in person and in your communities with examples of people who work in a way that you would like to work, so that you can prove to your system, to your unconscious, that it is possible. Because if they can do that, then they are living, breathing proof that you can have that too. Versus, what oftentimes happens, I remember when I was single and dating in New York, I would hang out sometimes with other single women who would be like, all the good men are taken, and that was their belief. That was their belief, that there are no good men in New York, or there are no good people in New York that I want to date. And, dating in New York is hard, right? That's another one. And because that was what they were choosing, they were believing, that is what they were seeing in their results. Dating for them was hard. I personally didn't have that belief. I never found it hard. I found it to be really fun. So those are just examples that two people could be doing the same thing, but having completely different experiences based on what they're choosing to focus on. So when it comes to the choice to work less than 40 hours a week, I think it's really important to be around other people who are making a similar choice, if that's in fact the lifestyle that you want to lead. Now, how do you get yourself organized to work this way? Well, having my first child was really what did it for me because there is nothing like parenthood and being responsible for this tiny person to make you realize what your priorities are. So number one is I did a very intense assessment of my 80-20 and I got super clear on my 20%. And my 20% that gives me 80% of the results is creating content and connecting. So this activity that I'm doing right here, being with you right in this moment, this is part of my 20%. I used the analysis activity that I teach in Origin, and I did my analysis, and it was very clear, okay, creating content and connecting. That's what I need to be spending 80% of my work time on. And the other stuff I need to either automate, eliminate, or delegate. Elizabeth, who is another one of our Origin members, the divorce doctor, she actually has a new book out called Light After Divorce. So if you are looking for anything like that, check her out. But Elizabeth, from applying what we teach, what we practice in Origin, specifically at first around the 80-20 rule, Elizabeth was able to reduce the number of hours she was working in her therapy practice by 50% and increase the amount of money she was making in her therapy practice by 50%. So that's huge. When we really get clear on what it is that we need to be focused on, then we free up so much time and energy, and we're able to, because each hour is so much more fruitful and so much more focused and so filled with the highest and best use of our time, you end up making more money in that 1 hour when you're doing the right thing. So it's not about working more hours, it's about working on the right things in the hours you have. So that's really key, that 80-20 rule. So that's one of the very first things we do. The second thing is getting super clear on your boundaries and what you're available for and what you're not. And the 80-20 rule will really help with this. And this is something we're working on right now in the No Challenge. Anybody who's on right now, anybody in the No Challenge, we're doing this. We have over 3,100 people currently gathered up saying no to one thing a day for 8 days. And we're about halfway through. And the results that people are having are amazing. One of them actually said no to something that wasn't right for her and right away called in something that was what she'd been dreaming of. Because that's what happens. When we start to say no to what's not in alignment, then we're able to call in so much more of what is best for us. And you can go to katenorthrup.com/no if you want to do the No Challenge with us. Tomorrow, I'll be going live in that group to talk about scripts for saying no, like the actual words to say for the most common scenarios that might come up in your business. So you want to get clear on your 80-20. You want to get super clear on what is and is not a good use of your time. I wrote a blog last week on our company no policies. So if you want to check out our company no policies to get an idea of some of the things you could make a policy to say no to, you can check that over at katenorthrup.com/blog. So getting clear on your 80-20, getting clear on your boundaries and what you are and are not available for. And then taking a look at your schedule and taking a long range look. So linear planning has us look at every 24-hour chunk as equal and the same. And the thing is that for those of us who are people with periods, or for those of us who are more identified with feminine energy, we're actually far more cyclical. So when we try to fit ourselves into the box of 24-hour chunk planning where every day is supposed to be the same, it leaves us feeling like there's something wrong with us. But what the truth is that there's something wrong with the time management and productivity industry because it hasn't taken us into consideration. And so when you are able to reorganize the time that you have, what's really cool is you're able to make hay while the sun shines and do the things that make the most sense for you based on your energy at a certain time of the month, and instead of trying to be the same every day. Now, the 40-hour work week is really based on that linear model of everything should be the same every day and you should feel the same as you did last week. But the problem with that is that a good 50% or more of us on the planet, our bodies literally don't work that way. And during our reproductive years, we have 4 specific hormonal phases that we go through every month in concert with our menstrual cycle. And those 4 specific phases are exact energetic mirrors of the 4 seasons. So each month you go through a personal winter where you're really, when I have my period, when I'm in my personal winter, I often will take 1 to 2 days off almost completely of work. And I watch TV in the afternoon and I journal and I might take a nap. I might go to the park and get my feet in the grass. But I just move really slow. And so that week of the month is definitely not a 40-hour work week for me. Then that's the time that I really do more reflecting and more interior work that doesn't look like work on the outside, but it's critical for staying in alignment with my soul and staying in alignment with my purpose and really diving into my best work from an intuitive perspective, like receiving the guidance about what is next and what decisions I need to make. The next phase after that is going to be your personal springtime, and that's the follicular phase, the week after you have your period. That's a high energy time. So I'm right now in my follicular phase moving into ovulation. So this is a high energy time. I'll push it more during this week and the ovulation week. So during follicular and ovulation, I will go for it and I have more energy to do more. And that's great. So I know that I can push it and work all the way up until 5 p.m. At night. I stop my work day at 5 because that's when my kids come home, like 4 or 5. And I know that I can start work right first thing in the morning. So I do that during that time of my cycle. During ovulation, same thing. It's a higher energy time. Then luteal comes. And luteal is a time when we are the most focused. So our brain tends to be the most focused. However, it's a lower energy time. So I find during luteal, I can get a lot done, but it's a different kind of work. Like I don't want to have meetings. I don't really want to be doing a bunch of Facebook lives or Instagram lives. I don't really want to be interacting with people as much. I want to kind of go inward and more do my own thing. And so I map out my work month as opposed to my work week. And on average, it comes out that I work less than 40 hours a week because I've got the 80-20 dialed in. I'm setting boundaries and saying no to almost everything and that comes in from outside. And I am cyclically planning my month so that some weeks I'm really going for it in an outward way and some weeks I'm not. And both of those are productive and valuable, just in a different way. So I'm curious, as you're listening to this, do you have any questions about how to apply it in your own business, or any questions on some of the specifics that I shared? And by the way, these are 3 of the core elements of what we practice in Origin. And it really flies in the face of just show up more, just give more, just be on more, just put in more effort, just put in more hours, just hustle harder, right? That's not really sustainable. We are about working in a way that aligns with not only the data, but also our bodies and nature. And when we look to our biology and the natural world as a model for how we can work, it's amazing how much abundance and flow we can tap into. So that's what we practice in Origin. And if you're interested in learning more about the membership, I'm doing 2 info sessions next week. So we're trying something new this time. Instead of doing a webinar where there's a whole topic and I teach a whole thing and then at the end I do a pitch, which there's nothing wrong with that. I just thought for this time around, wouldn't it be great if we just said, you know what, we're doing info sessions. So if you want to know about Origin, you can just go to katenorthrup.com/info, and I'm going to tell you what Origin is all about and help you make the decision about if this community is right for you and if this model of working is right for you. So you can head over to katenorthrup.com/info and you can sign up for one of those information sessions. One of the things I'll also be doing during the info session is sharing some of the behind the scenes of what's been going on over in my life these past couple of months. It's been really intense. I've been questioning everything. I moved, so that was a big deal. I moved from Maine to Miami. My husband got really sick again, and he is luckily well now, getting well. But we weathered that. And so I'm going to be talking about what's been going on behind the scenes and how the tools that we use in Origin and how the Do Less philosophy has been helping now.